as we go through a whole curation process. And the very interesting thing about Evan is that he kind of stumbled into where he is in life today, right? It wasn't at all what he had planned for himself and how he saw himself. And I was like, that could be a curious journey too. So a big round of applause to Evan, who will be hosting us tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Hi everyone, my name's Evan. Nice to see you all. Quite a big turnout tonight. Big thanks to Shilpa for organizing this all. Incredible stuff here. All right, so before I begin, just wanted to ask a few quick questions. How many people in the room are working in startups now? Just raise your hands. Okay. How many people are interested to work in startups in the room? Please raise your hands. Okay, that's all right then. Okay, well, I'm just going to tell you about my own personal journey of how I entered the startup world. Exactly like Shilpa said, just pretty much stumbling my way into it. Okay, so my name's Evan. I'm the Chief of Staff at Holistic Software. I like to describe myself this way, a full stack hustler, which is basically what the role is. Anything from business development, marketing, sales, a bit of coding as well. So that's really in the startup life, you end up doing a bit of everything. Self-taught coder, I'll explain more during my journey later on, and habitual maker of fails, which I'll explain now. Okay, so just to give you a bit of an understanding of the company that I'm at now, Holistics. So we are a cloud data reporting platform that a lot of startups enjoy using. So we've got startup customers, several unicorns around the region. You can think of us a bit like a Google for your company's data, a Google and Excel for your company's data. So we've got offices around Jakarta, Ho Chi Minh, and Singapore. We have over 100 customers around the world and more than 7,000 business users. And it's been a great, exciting journey. I've been with them for about 2 years now, and it's been quite the roller coaster. So how did I end up here? So the Crazy Rich Asian, Henry Golding, Jolo from, you guys know. So the difference is that I think when I first graduated, so my undergrad was in international relations. I thought that I was going to enter a career of maybe economics and policy making. So the first job was in a think tank. And basically, I think my first fail was realizing that what I studied had nothing to do with what I was going to end up working on. So the role, actually, I thought it was going to be a really big picture, learning about the region, which it was. Learn about Indonesia, ASEAN, China, India. But it turns out that my skill sets didn't quite align with what the role required at the time. So I ended up doing a lot of writing of policy making kind of papers, and it just became very repetitive. And so I found myself that, hey, no one's going to guide you through this journey. You're really going to have to pick it up yourself. No one's going to teach you, like, okay, this is what you're going to have to learn now, this is what you're going to do, this is the syllabus. And I think for a Singaporean, they're like, oh my God, the rails are gone, I need to just figure it out now. So that was something interesting. So what happened was that I actually decided to pick up coding on the side. So the think tank actually did a lot of work with econometrics, right? So collecting statistics from different places. We had to work with a lot of survey data. So there were a lot of these spreadsheets. And so for me, it was also a personal interest to diversify my skill set. So there's this really great course called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python. So that was actually fantastic. So I did that for a few months, plugging away. And then I realized that, hey, I actually can build something with this now. So I ended up building a script that automated this process that used to take the think tank 2 weeks with 5 people, and I turned it into something that took 15 minutes with 1 person. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow, this is some results. Maybe I'm ready to make a switch and do something exciting with this. So that's when I thought, okay, let's try and enter the startup world and go into data. So I thought with that I'll try to go into a data analyst type job in startups. So what I realized is that, okay, just because you know a bit of programming, that's not going to be enough. So it turns out that the skill that they really wanted was actually SQL for data analysts. Python was not the key skill that you need. So that was in a situation where I knew where I wanted to go. but I didn't really quite have the experience behind me to back that up. So I started thinking like, okay, so this is another wall I'm gonna have to bang down. So when I say compensate, I thought, okay, so how do I try to prove to people that I have maybe what it takes to do this? So I decided to record videos of myself coding to see if maybe that could be compelling. And I started sending these videos out to a lot of different companies. I applied to Shopee as well. The video got me an interview and didn't get me through to the end of it. But the interesting thing was that after that, I actually applied to the company I'm in now, Holistics. And so at first I thought I was applying for something data related, but then what happened was when they saw the videos, they'd go, this is really interesting, and that's what I meant by an unforeseen reason. Turned out that recording videos of a product was something that was really helpful for them because it's a complex solution that they have to try to explain, and it was a great way to help people understand that. So I think that's kind of how I stumbled my way into startups, into holistic software, and I really got the chance to diversify my skill set. So at first I thought I was going to be a researcher in a think tank, and then it brought me to a different direction. I thought I was going to become a data analyst. I ended up working in a startup that does a product for data analysts. So I think the fantastic thing is that I constantly feel like I'm way in over my head every day, but at the same time, I'm still learning so much, and I've never felt so fulfilled. So ever since I joined the startup, I've been able to pick up all sorts of skills because it's a technical product. I had to pick up a bit of JavaScript. I've built a basic app in Ruby. I can do some HTML, CSS stuff. I finally understand what pulling and pushing and making a commit and a branch on GitHub is. But all this is just through just banging my head against walls constantly, searching on YouTube. Oh, how do I do this thing? Oh, how do I do that thing? And trying to figure it out as I go. So there's this constant sense of this imposter syndrome. You feel a bit of a fraud. Sometimes when I'm talking to other companies trying to explain what we do, I sometimes feel like, oh my gosh, am I making sense to you guys? This is how it makes sense to me. Does this make sense? So it can get quite overwhelming. So I think my personal takeaways that I found from this whole experience, though, is that looking back, even though it feels, it doesn't necessarily feel like, oh, I've grown that much, but if I look back, it was really interesting when I was talking to Shilpa about this presentation. I realized that if I was to go back and talk to myself 2 years ago, I'll be blown away that, oh my God, what do you mean? You mean all that stuff about like AWS Redshift, Google BigQuery, doing stuff with PostgreSQL, what are all those words? And now I actually understand these things a bit more. And so it's really, I think for me, it was that whole journey of wanting to figure out what's the most meaningful way to spend my time that's led me to all these situations. I just keep trying to think, okay, maybe at first what I thought was economic policy making was going to be like is to have an impact on the region. Then I realized that, hey, maybe making an impact in the region would bring me to tech instead. And then I go into tech, and then I realized that, oh, there's so many things I need to pick up. And so it's this constant sense of trying to grow and reinvent myself and fail and grow through failure. So I think for me, my own takeaway from this is that that element of always questioning and always experimenting and just taking rejection in my stride, no matter how many people push back, has been really helpful to just sort of get me to where I am now. So very happy to answer any questions that you guys have. Please feel free to get in touch. You could maybe come up to me after the presentation or maybe take a photo of the car out there. And I hope that my sharing was interesting for a couple of you to thinking about this sort of trying to make a switch in your careers, or maybe trying to figure out, things aren't going according to plan, but it can still work out. So just don't lose that determination to keep going. So thanks.
Thank you, Evan. So,